Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, what I want to do is that I want to compare Rolex and Omega watches in terms of like they have this, they have that. They're similar in price for the most part, and just look at them. I want to tell you ahead at the outset, I don't have a dog in this fight. I got on my Harry Winston, and it's totally. And this was before it was bought by Swatch, by the way, too. Swatch also owns Omega, but no connection there with me at all. So let's take a look at some pairs, and what I want to do, I want to start off with this particular pair, and then I want to take a look at the movements, and then I want to look at some other pairs, just to give an idea of the cost and what you get, and so on and so forth. Now, the first one is the Air King, the Rolex Air King, and the Omega Seamaster 300. The Air King has the same movement as the Milgauss. And the Milgauss is important because it has Milgauss means 1,000 Gauss. And so this too has that 1,000 Gauss. Now I think with what they've done with the parachrome movement or parachrome hairspring probably has a little more than that. But essentially, this watch is one, like I said, I like. I know it's not popular among a lot of Rolex fans, but that's the way it goes. This one, the thing I like about it has an interesting dial. The dial was actually based on somewhat of a copy of another dial that Rolex did for this land speeder called the Bloodhound. They put a big jet engine on this thing and shot it across some salt flats or something. It was called the the Bloodhound. And they had a dial for it. And so when looking for a new dial for the Air King, they chose that one. I just love it. I think it's a very cool dial. So that's that. Plus the fact that it has the same movement as the Milgauss. It's about a couple $1,000s less, too. Now, the Seamaster 300 is called the Coaxial Master Chronometer. Nice, clean movement. Very similar, in my opinion, to sort of your standard kind of Rolex, like the Air King. There are some major differences. I'll take a look at those in a second. The price is about the same, $164.50. The other one is $6,800. One's 40 millimeters. The other one is 41 millimeters. And they both have a metal bracelet to them too. So those are the kind of similarities. Now, in looking at the movements, first of all, let's take a look at the Rolex movement. Now, this particular caliber is a 3131, which is the one that's in the Air King and the Milgauss. And a couple things that are important. First of all, they have a free sprung balance, which is considered to be better because you can make finer adjustments on it, and there are other problems that a curb regulator has. So it's generally a better one, even though some excellent movements are made without that. It has the balance bridge is a whole bridge over the balance system, and the reason that's important, it gives it a greater stability, and I think they also include this better shock absorption too. On a lot of the free sprung, on the curb regulator movements, they have what's called a balance cock, and it's like a little bridge that goes out, and then underneath it is where you have the balance. This one is anchored on both sides. The escapement that Rolex has is called Chronergy escapement, and it's a modified Swiss lever escapement that according to Rolex, you get about 15% better efficiency, which is nice. I don't know how they came up with that number, but that's what they say. One of the things that you can, to see a free sprung balance, is that they have what Rolex calls the microstella adjustment screws. And on a lot of watches with, you'll see this, sometimes they're on the inside of the balance wheel, sometimes they're on the outside of the balance wheel. These are on the inside. This is with a parachrome hairspring. One of the ways that you can recognize a parachrome hairspring on a Rolex is that if they're blue, because what they do is that they mix niobium and zirconium and oxygen and put them at this super high heat and cool them off, and they turn blue. So that's one of the telltale signs of a parachrome, which I happen to really like a lot. Now they do have what's called a siloxy silicone hairspring. It's in, among other ones, I imagine, in the caliber 2236 or the Pearl Master. But for all of the other ones we're going to be looking at, they have the parachrome that's pure without silicone added to it. All right, now on the other hand, your Omega, the one in the Seamaster is the caliber 8400. One thing in general that I like about Omegas is that they're more likely to have a sapphire window on the back, so you can see the movement. I like to see the movements, and this particular one is a very nice movement. It's got what's called a coaxial escapement. This was developed by George Daniels back in, I guess between 70s, 80s, and 90s, and he tried like heck to get somebody interested in it, and he finally did with Omega. And Omega is the only major brand I know beside Roger Smith, one of Daniel's students, that use this. There may be some other ones too, but this is the coaxial escapement. Is the purpose behind it is to cut down on friction, and so there's less things touching, and there's other kinds of things that are, according to Daniels and of course to Omega and a lot of other watchmakers, this is really an improved escapement. The hairspring is called the SI14. Now this is a silicone hairspring. The advantage of a silicone hairspring is that they're totally non-magnetic. I got a feeling the parachrome is pretty non-magnetic too, but in addition, the SI14 is that they talk about the weight of gravity affecting any kind of metal hairspring, even ones made of niobium and zirconium, like the Rolex one. And in fact, the guys who made the Rolex hairspring point that out. So these are basically the different kinds of movements you're going to have in both of the watches. Now, the next two we're going to look at are chronographs. Daytona, they call it Cosmograph Daytona, Chronometer, Perpetual Oyster. By the way, too, both the Omega and Rolex are chronometers, which means they have been tested by some kind of agency like COSC or Metas, and they say, okay, these, we've used our telescope or some other measuring device, and these things meet our criteria, so you can put chronometer on the label. This is a law in Switzerland. Okay, so here are two, the Speedmaster and the Cosmograph Daytona. The Cosmograph Daytona is 13150. Both of these movements, according to Rolex and Omega, are wholly in-house developed and so forth. And the difference is about one thing. The Speedmaster does not include this particular model. They do have models that have the hour subdial. They don't on this one. A lot of people don't like them, myself included, but what are you going to do? For timing is something I would only time in seconds or minutes. usually not hours, but you can. And of course, without, if you don't have a sub-dial with it, you simply use your hour hand. So the other difference is that the Omega has a date on it for the down at 6 o'clock. A lot of Rolexes do not have date windows, and I particularly like that. I don't like having to set the date. So anyhow, okay, these next two are probably the most famous Rolexes, the Submariner. There are a lot of different models of the Submariner. They have their green ones and blue ones and different ones that they have. The green ones, they have a Kermit and a Hulk, and then there's what's it called, a Bluesy for the blue one with a gold center on a bracelet. Submariner, though, they all use pretty much the same movement, except for adding a date window on some of them. They have, this is Oyster Steel. Oyster Steel is Sterling's, is stainless steel that Rolex uses. The Diver 300-meter coaxial master chronometer, again, both of them are chronometers. All Rolexes are COSC chronometers, and I think all of Omega ones are that say chronometer are from Metis. This one has, the Diver has the Omega Diver has a date window. They all have dates, it seems, down at 6 o'clock. And it also has a helium escape valve. It's sort of fun to have one of those, but let's face it, most people who have the divers are called desk divers, like me. I wouldn't go in the water with a nice watch like that. Okay, now, the last ones I want to take a look at are with these two. This is Rolex and Omega. There's Cellini Time and the DeVille Tresor. Both of these are gold, yellow 18 karat gold, and both of them are yellow gold, I think. Rolex calls their gold Ever Rose, so that's, I don't know what that means. Their basic dress watch is 15,200 gold. The DeVille Tresor that I picked, I sort of like it. It's a real dramatic looking watch, coaxial master chronometer. It's the 125th anniversary edition. It's hand wound, which I really like, which is different than the great majority of Omega watches. Now, my view on this, if you're looking for a dress watch, what I would suggest is that you look elsewhere. I mean, when you're going to spend a lot of money on a gold watch, this is what I would go with a dress watch, a gold watch, a Patek Philippe Calatrava, Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda 1950, H. Mosa et Compagnie Endeavor Center Seconds, and a Vacheron Constantin Patrimony. All four of these watches, I think, if you're going to have a dress watch, this would be more the kind of, both Omega and Rolex are so strongly identified with sports watches that, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but anyway. Finally, I want to have a couple of watches that are unique and different, and two I happen to really like. One is a Yachtmaster 2 chronograph. What this has on it is a countdown. The big red triangle at the end of one of the hands is your countdown hand. And it's the mechanism that was added to the Yachtmaster to allow this, I think, makes it a Yachtmaster. I mean, is that a Yachtmaster is one that should be in regattas. And I really like this. Now, the other one, the by Omega, classic watch, is referred to as the Moon Watch. This is the Speedmaster Professional Chronograph. It's hand wound, and it's very close to the actual movement that was in the Omega that went on the first moon trip. Now, if we look at the movements on this, we find some interesting things. The Yachtmaster 2 is a caliber 1461. And this is for you yachtsmen out there, is that where the flag is, the whole countdown mechanism is based on setting up a regatta. I guess it goes up and you start it, and then it goes to a countdown, and then you do something else. And they show a little cannon blow that hit. You got 5 minutes to do another thing, and then to depart when you're ready to go. Then you hit something else on there. But for a regatta, setting up a regatta, it's a neat watch to do that with. Now, the caliber 1861, which is in the Moon Watch, is very close to the, I think it was 381 or something like that. I forgot the name of the movement that was actually on the original one, but this one is a big improvement on that. And it's not chronometer rated, which is another interesting thing. The base of this is a Lamania 1873 hand wound, 3 hertz. By the way, too, most of the Rolex watches, almost, I think all of them, are 4 hertz. And the Omegas are 3.5 hertz with some 4 hertz. So for those of you who that's important to, and it is to me, I like the slower ones. So this caliber 1861 hand wound and 3 hertz is one I really like. Well, listen, those are some comparisons. And it's, to me, they're both brands are really good watches. And to me, some of the telltale signs are the free-sprung balance and the way that I really like the parachrome hairspring, the coaxial escapement. They got some neat stuff on these, both of these brands. Well, listen, like I said, I don't have a horse. I don't have a horse in this race or a dog in this fight, but I am very interested in your comments, what you think, what you say, and everything that I got wrong from a fanboy's point of view. This is an invitation to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Side, the Art and Science of Watch Collection.